bring my mic up in here. Wow. We're back again. What's up, people? We're back again. Well, it's not 9 o'clock just yet. I need to start thinking about like how the different time zones take an impact on y'all because I really don't know where y'all be at. So I'm going to put it in the chat. What time is it for you? Right now, it's 9 a.m. Sometimes I wonder, like, should I do this earlier? Should I do it later? What does that look like? What does that look like? Oh man, it's been a crazy week. I don't know about y'all, but man, it's been a crazy week. A lot of good stuff happening. I was trying to add my TikTok, but that didn't work out. Um, it's like you got to stay in your own platforms, or they want you to stay in the platform. Which, you know, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Everybody wants their platform to be what makes sense, and I get it. I'm using for those that I'm a podcaster. For those that don't know, I'm for the podcasting. Probably see it. I don't know where it's floating at, but it's Riverside. I'm not paying the extra money to get that watermark removed because I don't be going live stream all the time, So it's gonna do what it's gonna do. So let me say, hey, if you're here, and I only see zero people here, so it's not. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, but I'll just wait. I have my music on in the back. But the topic was, ooh, we got, get into it. Why do small businesses fail? Or what can you do? And I basically just want to say, hey, you can ask me anything as a small business. There's a couple of things that actually I wanted to drop this link in here for y'all so you can see that, what I'm going to be talking from. Here's the reference. I just gave this link. I thought it was interesting. I put on my professor hat so everybody has something to look at while you're doing whatever the case may be. But I wanted to talk about this article. This is something from Entrepreneurship HQ. Um, I've never heard of these people before, but when I started to go through it, I thought it was pretty legit. Obviously, it's a company. They're selling stuff, which is fine. We all got to sell stuff, which is all good. But I thought it was interesting how they went over the 2025 report, which typically that doesn't happen until 2025 is over. So I don't think this is conclusive. I don't think this is 2025. But Homeboy does state, and look, I'm just going to share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about because I think it's something that, if you are in small business or want to do small business, it's something that you should take in consideration if you're starting a small business or have an idea to start a small business. It is probably best for you to think about uh, how well you're going to do, how much money you're going to make, all the things that's going to take to make that happen. And so I'm looking at also several different screens. So if you're just on here, feel free to jump in and say what's up. Uh, my name is Nathan Webster. If you didn't already get that, I run a marketing agency here in Vancouver, Washington. I've been doing entrepreneurship for the last, oh man, 26 years full time as an entrepreneur for the probably the last 6 years, 7 years. I started this company about 10 years ago, but I also um, done freelancer work as a adjunct professor at the local colleges. My first one was Clark College, and then I was there enjoying myself, thinking about becoming tenure where I did it full time. And then I got involved with the entrepreneurship program, which I loved. And at the time, it wasn't a program. There's a difference between a student club that's ran by students. They are allocated X amount of dollars, and they have to raise money for anything that they do. As for a program, it is funded through the tuition and fee. So there's a but you ask for the budget with submitting the request of trips or activities, things that you do to serve the student population. It's not for the public. And so when I was running the student club, the students there were only there for a certain period of time because it's a 2 year school. So when we became a program, there was fresh blood, new people, and of course our program had grew. So I was starting to oversee that, and it was really cool how just how people took entrepreneurship as this is something I can do. Not like, can I do it? Of course, they ask that question. Can I do it? It's like, well, yeah, you can do it. But you start to see in their eyes, oh, I can do this. And then they're like, well, what if it worked? I could do this with my family. I could do this for my kids. I could do this for my career. And what about school? I can learn about this. I can take this class. And you just start to see them open up and see how they are envisioning a brand new life like they just won the lottery, but it's not that they were gambling on anything except for themselves. They were taking a risk, which is entrepreneurship. And so I would have loved to have done that at Clark College. It's in Vancouver, Washington. It's funny, it's right next to my office. So I started there, but then I started to teach at other colleges. And I think I was max at 4 colleges. I'm now down to one. I didn't teach for a full year. It felt really good, especially after the pandemic, because just teaching's different. You have a certain content schedule that you have to maintain, and you're teaching to ensure that the students walk away with something. And as consulting, what I also do in the business is the goal is to get the results. On the student and the college, there's outcomes for them to achieve their degree or diploma, however you want to say it. But when it comes to businesses, it's all about making sure people pay their bills. And stand that I got bills to pay too. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, I wanted to share this article because I thought it was interesting how they started to go into it. And as we get into this article, I put the link in the notes. If you go to entrepreneurshq.com, and then it's / small hyphen business hyphen statistics. I wanted to use some of their data. I didn't go in a deep dive into all the information, but I do like how you said I learned this firsthand back in 2001. That was almost when I started. And I'm going to jump up, but too many people jump in without knowing the realities, assuming success is a gamble, when in truth, it comes down to strategy. We always talk about that in my marketing agency, and I come back to here where like it's not an overnight process. He started in 2001, or they or she, whomever they started back then, and now it's a it becomes where like, ooh, how many people are else are going through this? So I think it's cool that they give us a table of contents. There's lots of which I'm not gonna go through them all because I just wanted to talk through it. They talk about the success rates. They do list some of their data, but they say 2025, but I believe they're just saying in this year, 2025, we're using 2024 data. They said 65% of small businesses are profitable, where 80% of owners feel optimistic about their company's future. Here's something that we don't talk about is money. How profitable are you? That's not a conversation that I've ever had with anyone. Am I profitable? I'm only asked those questions if I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever been asked that question am I profitable? That's that's just not a question that comes up. That's like someone asking you like, what's your pay rate? That doesn't come up. So when they say, hey, 62% of their small business owners say they're in good health, like I kind of wonder, like, where are they getting this from? Is this from an urban area, a rural area, a metropolitan, a large, a small? Is it near a federal bank where there's money is flowing? Is it from the tech industry? You kind of wonder, where is that from? 62% is a big number. I didn't go into the kind of high overreaching holistic numbers of how many small businesses there are. I just want to get to some of this meaty stuff that we can talk about or even chat about. Feel free to put it in the text. And it says 80% of business owners plan to grow in the next year, and 40% expect to hire more staff. 39% of small business owners say that they're very unhappy. They are very happy running their businesses, and 92% don't regret starting one. So let's get into the survival statistics of a small business. When 80% of small businesses survive in the first year without health care and social assistance business lending at 85%. I don't think that is something that's talked about, of how much additional capital, when we talk about starting a small business, where do you get the cash from? And when you say only 80% of small businesses survive in their first year, and then 70% make it to their second year, but only 50% make it to year five, and only less than 35% make it a decade or more. But at what point are they profitable? Are they profitable? How are they doing? How is their mental health? What is really going on in this small business world? Because so many people talk about doing a small business, but when you say, like, why do small businesses fail? Cash flow. Number one problem is cash flow. But I'm gonna say, as Crystal would say, one of my clients and friends, and my own accountant, she says it's positive recurring cash flow. The positive recurring cash flow, the positive cash flow. Cash flow is king, just like we say in the marketing world. Content is king. You have to have positive cash flow. Without it, you are a sitting duck. You are stuck. You are in pain. And when you go down to number two, now wait, I do wanted to make sure that they mentioned Fundera. Actually, I can't now highlight it's an image. Fundera is where it seems like they're getting this information. And 29% run out of money before even turning into a profit, which is important because Fundera is a company that funds money. They are a lender. So when people start this idea, they go get money instead of going to figure out whether or not this is a viable option without taking a loan. So when I was just saying, like, wait, you trying to say that in number two, 42% of small businesses experience failure because there was no real market need for their product or service? Like, what? Hold on. You started a business without doing your due diligence? Like, you took a huge risk and say, I'm going to go all in, and you leaped before you looked? Mm, mm, I'm going to jump down to number four when they say competition is tough. Like, this is not competition as a game. This is not a hobby. This is not an extracurricular activity. They say 90% of businesses fail because they get outcompeted either due to pricing, innovation, or market positioning, marketing, right? But let me come back to this competition. Wait, hold up. Stop the press. You're saying that you took this huge risk and you didn't know how competitive it was because this is your livelihood. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Man, you know how many people hype up entrepreneurship as in entrepreneurship is this glorious, beautiful thing, and you, if you're not doing it, you're not going to be successful. And so, um, how often do small businesses fail? When they say 20% of small businesses fail within the first year, and 50% don't make it past the first five, uh, or I should say just 5 years period, and only 25% survive to year 15. I'm in that category. But yet, over five new businesses were started in 2023, making one of the most biggest surges in entrepreneurship. Now, again, I put this article in here. You can check this out. But I want to talk about this. This is where I want to, let me just grab this right here. And would love to talk about it because I kind of just want to just say, like, what's up with that? I put it in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want to jump in here and say, what, like, what's up with that, y'all? Like, talk to me about. I would love for you to put in the comments, like, why did we start businesses and not understand, like, this is a livelihood? I been working on a formula, if you will, and it's actually right behind me. It's decoder. Uh, I say decoder though, about how we get stuck in these things that like doesn't make sense. And I'll keep it real. Like I'll start with me. When it comes to the cod, it's something that I do in my home, and it's clean, organized, declutter, and detox. And I'll just focus on the last one because I think that detoxing is the hardest thing to do, because when you start cleaning, right, you're creating this activity as you organizing. I don't know what the psychological part of it is, but when it comes to decluttering, get rid of all the things we like to consume, and we pile up, and then we hoard, and then we say, okay, it's time to release. I got to give this to charity or goodwill, or pass it down, maybe give it to someone that is actually going to appreciate it. But that whole process is mental. That detoxification, and I say detoxing on a mental level, emotionally, spiritually, physically, is hard because, if you are going to buy this $5 item and you say, here's the money for the $5, uh, uh, give me my receipt, give me the product, it's mine now, right? And you say, okay, I'm good, I can walk away. When you do that with your emotion, you don't know if the emotion is going to be like $5, right? I'm just trying to make it transactional to make it simple. You don't know if it's going to be like 5 minutes. Is it 5 hours? Is it 5 days? Is it 5 months? Good God, if it's 5 years. But when it comes to processing, letting go, releasing something that you've had for years, you got to go through the process of why. Coming back to small business, why are you starting a business? Why are you doing this if you haven't done your due diligence to look it up? Now, could you be a cold killer in regards to being a phenomenal business owner? I'm sure you could. What I started to see in my students when I was running the program at Clark College, I started to see them see their lives change, and they had to really be honest, like really dig deep and have a conversation with themselves to say, if I do this, now this wasn't a conversation we had out loud. I wasn't as skilled I am now to say, hey, let's sit down, let's talk through this, because this is not a conversation that you should have by yourself. You should have this conversation with somebody that has either the experience to mentor you, or someone that's going to be with you and do it with you, in my opinion, like I don't want to say a co-founder or a partner, but how can you work through this problem, because it is a problem. I don't want you to think like, oh, this the solution, right? Yes, the solution's in the problem, but when it comes to you figuring out why do you believe you can't do it? I'm going to start there. Because they have this conversations as in, if I do this, I will have to make significant changes to my lifestyle. And some of these changes, I'm going to say, are necessary no matter what. I mean, the only permanent thing that we have in life is change. So why not jump ahead of the change and do it anyways, right? But for some reason, I saw my students struggle with, like, if I did this, I would have to almost surrender and forget, or just like not have the lifestyle I want. And again, I wasn't that skilled to say, like, no, wait, don't go down that rabbit hole. You can have this life. You can have these things. It's just not going to come through a W-2 employer giving you a paycheck every other Friday or on the first of the 15th. You can go out there and determine, without getting a loan, putting yourself out in the market with maybe a very simple minimal viable product. We call it MVP, go to market strategy, to see whether or not this is something that people want. If people want it, they pay for it. Because as I we all love to do is move away from pain to get to pleasure. And if we can find things to give us pleasure, we're going to do that. Definitely if it's something around health and wealth. So when we start talking about what are those things, I'm not even talking about recreation, education, lifestyle. We have all these different industries that people have these ideas in. And there was one student in particular that was like a uh was they were doing food, and their food was really good, and I was like, man, you could actually make a business out of this. And this student was excited. When I brought in some investors from the foundation, they were like, hey, we can help you with this. And you saw the student getting excited, and it was almost an excitement that, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But when I think back, the excitement was more of, man, this is acknowledgement that my family recipes that was passed down, I want to say from generations to generations, is not just a hit with our family. Like, this is significant, as in it can be bigger than my family. And I saw this student just struggling to make that decision because ultimately they didn't. I don't know why. And I'm not saying she's wrong for not making that decision, but I also believe it's what I was saying earlier with, they were not wanting to have that conversation with themselves, asking themselves, if I did this, what would I have to sacrifice? When we go back to that that article that I was sharing about why businesses fell in the first year from the 80%, it's crazy because I'm past my 10-year mark now. I'm about to go on the 15th, and I had this person say to me a few years ago, "What are you gonna do with your business in 10 years from now?" And that was like 3 years ago. And then of course I was like, "Man, I'm gonna keep doing my business. Like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't I do my business?" I had a viewer on here. Thank you for joining. Um, I wanted to finish that thought, so I apologize for not acknowledging you. But hey, make sure, I'm gonna put in the chat, new viewers. You can feel free to interrupt me and say what's up in the chat, of course. Interrupt and um, ask any questions because I'm here for you. I I wish I would have the options to have asked people. And when I started my company, had these ideas, I didn't have a internet, a live session. I had to drive. I had to talk to people, get on people's calendars, and some people just like, no, I'm not trying to be on here. So if you, as a viewer, if you have questions for me, feel free to ask a question and let me know how I can help you, because man, I would love to have asked someone, and it may not be for you. The 80-20 rule is like 80% is garbage, but there's a 20% golden nugget in there. And so that's like when it comes back to my students, where they had this awesome food opportunity and they had a chance to work even with a co-packer to get into potentially like a Walmart. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Why are you passing up on this opportunity? But I I wasn't as skilled. I don't know why. I was just like keep going, and I also didn't make myself available. So there was part of it. I put the blame on me of not making myself available to help. And I'm watching, looking at the chat, y'all, to see if y'all are asking any questions. I want to be here for y'all. Thank you for my viewer that's on there. I appreciate you. And when it comes to the ultimate decision, they decided to stay in school. They did not follow through with that opportunity to make their family recipe a maybe potentially a household item today and on the shelves. Man, this student was talented and was good. I was just like, why? Like, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you put yourself out? Why wouldn't you not put yourself out there? But to each their own. However, like you saw in the document, and I won't share it again, but the link is there. When they do say, when it comes to no, there's no chats. Okay, when it comes to entrepreneurship, they said in 2020, what, 2022, 2023, like it skyrocketed. We had people signing up for businesses, but then it's like, what type of businesses are they? Are they people like you can have a business but still have a full time job? So uh, Damon John, and I said this in one of my video, I think my last live or second to live, or I said in my podcast, of when Damon John said, uh, you know, 95% of resources that are out there are for a person wanting to start a new business. And it's a great self development tool. You don't need self help as in therapy if you're doing a business, because good God, it is therapy in itself. Not saying don't get you a therapist, don't get you someone, you know what I'm saying? But it's a great way to challenge your faith, your beliefs. Uh, it will challenge your family, your friends. You would really ask yourself, who are the people supporting you? Because just because they family don't mean they're gonna support you. That's one of my big. I'll tell you right now, one of my biggest problems is I thought I had a support group in my family, and I did not. I had to say goodbye to a couple of family members. I had to say I don't want you in my life, and I don't say like I hate you. Don't ever talk to me again. I just realized that I will no longer share and be the Nathan that you're used to. And it is what it is. But we think people are going to love everything that we do and maybe even the very thing that we're passionate about. And that's just not it. Yet what's crazy is we build a life. We have, well, I should say, we were given a life with these people. And now, as we are building a new life, or let's just say segment of our life, that those family members or don't come. And so they're like, well, shame on you. And so you're like, oh, okay, my bad. I won't do that. And so, oop, oop, you say you serve. Ooh, let me finish this thought and come to this question. And so I just want to finish the part about my family members, not just family members, but even my closest people. I thought had my back, and they did it. And when I let them go, I was able to put myself in a different environment and people that did support me. And so that was key, and that could be another conversation. All right. So I had I think it's Nerd Nova Tech said you serve mostly BIPOC and veteran clients. So tell me, what's one marketing tactic you refuse to simplify for them because it truly didn't work? Ooh, be specific. Um, that is a great question. In that document that I shared earlier, they say or it was another document, about 40% of people don't use or have a marketing plan. There's like even 10% of folks that don't believe in it. And so when I serve BIPOC and veteran clients, one of the things that's really hard with them is we have overcome, and I'm going to speak on behalf of myself before I go into my clients. I struggled with me having to do this always on my own because I always had to face adversity by myself. Like if there was a racial slur or if I was bullied, I would go tell, and basically, they would get the finger wave, the people that did it, but no one came and talked to me about how to deal with my feelings. But I was still required or expected to just go on like everything's okay when it's not. That like shook me. And so that was just like me functioning, as E40 would say, just function. But in the business world, where your personal demons becomes your business obstacles, I was scared to put myself out there. I was scared to do networking in circles that I thought I didn't belong. That's what I was saying earlier a little bit about, the people that were supporting me. Sometimes I didn't go to networking functions or pay for certain items, to go to certain events because I didn't have anyone to go with me. So to be specific to clients, uh, it's something similar. As in, I say, what's one marketing tactic you refuse to simplify for them? When they double down on social media being their strategy, I'm like, that's not a strategy. And they were like, well, it is. And they start using other people that has been successful. I'm like, well, that's them. But when you peel the layers on why they're posting, and they made like LinkedIn, for example, they would say this person has this number of followers, and this person that they're following is also an influencer. Like LinkedIn has tapped them. I'm like, you got to understand they have no other ecosystem. Some way, somehow, they got in with LinkedIn. They put out a newsletter. They also, you see that they have a book coming out. You are trying to be in their lane because you already have those credentials, but you are not there. Your clout is not there. You have to have an omni-channel approach on multiple channels. You just can't stay on LinkedIn and stick to this process or this way of this person doing it. You're gonna have to be found and seen on other channels. And so they didn't want to listen to me on that. They didn't want to budge on that. And I feel that's one of the reasons sometimes BIPOC and veterans too, I think we just have, in one word, ego, to say like, well, I've overcome these obstacles for me. Now I have this business and it should still work. But it's like, well, you're going against the world just to function, just to do your daily things. But as a business, this is not about you. This is about your clientele or your customer. And so you are serving them in the way they need to be served. As I was saying earlier, you're helping them move away from pain to get to pleasure, and your experiences may not be the same as that other person. And so as you're trying to solve their problem, and if you're making it about you, you're going to fail. You have to 100% make it about them and build a system for them. So that's in the thing about a couple of folks. They see these tactics of using, say, social media, even don't even want to build a website because they were like, well, everyone's on social media, so I should do it too. But I'm like, well, there's some reasons behind that, and they didn't want to listen. Does that help my nerd Nova Tech Zach? I think. Uh, Let me know. Does that answer? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Uh, Let me know. Let me know if that helps. Like, I saw some likes. Thank you for the likes. Thanks for jumping on. I'm here asking you what's holding your small business back, because I didn't have that. I didn't have people like I had a drive. I couldn't just jump on a live. So I'm like, I get, as a black male, I get frustrated that I'm always the only one at the table. I live, okay, good. That makes sense. Okay, dope. Okay, good. Let me know if you have any more questions. I I get mad that I'm usually typically the only one at that table. I'm like, why do I have to be at the table? And then they ask like, well, tell me how you see it from your view. I'm like, well, I'm telling you my view, but no. Tell me more about from like the black perspective. I'm like, wait. When do I become the spokesperson for black people? And why am I the like? I'm here because I had to hustle and grind, sacrifice, make these moves to be here, but you don't even want me at the table sometimes. Like I get at the table, but that doesn't mean I'm part of the discussion. So when it comes to figuring out that small business piece to it, of like, now I didn't go into the small that article to read further to determine like how many small businesses are veterans, are BIPOC or the global majority, or are they women? You know, there was one statistic that I found that both BIPOC and women businesses are started because they got tired of hitting glass ceiling. Um, you say, yes, I do have in your own boutique firm. What was one client campaign you failed to deliver your results on, and what went wrong? Mm, mm. Let's see. Ooh, um, I can talk about this business. They are no longer in business. When I first, this was very early on in say I do marketing. Very early on when I say we do marketing, and we were doing websites. From we weren't hosting at the time. We were just building website still using WordPress, and then we were doing social media. And we said we were doing some strategy with that. Yet we were still learning how to do strategy and implement that to get results. Well, one of the you said client campaign you failed to deliver results on, what went wrong. What went wrong was I didn't ask enough questions. I came in there with the ego and saying like, this is my experience with how you go about doing your website and your social media, looking at this restaurant, seeing that you serve this people. The complaint was they always were getting new, and it was funny because they had two double doors, and this double door was locked, and this double door was open. So he would always sit here and says like, man, I can tell when people are new and they are coming from my Yelp ads because they come to these doors when they're locked. And it was also the door that was closest to the sidewalk, but it's not like they didn't have any sign saying door closed, go over here. But this door, you can tell the ones that came to this door, which was the door also with the cash register. Those are people that have been here before. And you say we continue to get people that are not familiar with our restaurant, that are new, and we need to get more returning customers. And I'm like, well, man, this was a very deep conversation. And he was an older cat. He was a family friend. That was another thing. Coming back to ego, not asking enough questions. I thought I could handle his ego. Most business owners, we have egos, and we don't want to put them aside because we found something that worked, and we want to keep going with what that worked. And so what went wrong was specifically was we did their website in about three, and we did a social media campaign and went phenomenal. Like he had so many orders, he created a fire. um, and so we were excited. We thought we were going to continue to work with them, but what happened was um, his domain didn't renew, and so his website went down. And he immediately called me, and I was like, I don't know. What do you mean you're doing? And I didn't know also that I should have checked that. Like I now ask for people's domain information, like on GoDaddy. If you're not on GoDaddy, you need to delegate access to me. But if you're not on GoDaddy, I need to know, when do you renew? How long are you renewing for? When did you buy it? I asked those questions. And so when his website went down, I was like, who are you with? I didn't go in to see who his domain was with. I didn't know that. I'm like, who are you hosting with? I didn't ask that. I didn't know. I just said, here's how we can build it on the shell. And I mean, he also didn't respond to his emails. And so I knew that he had a lot of emails, and his business was ran partly by his kids and his nieces, and let's just say like 10 people have their hands in their like I'll say 5 to 10 people have their hands in the business. And so um he didn't like people being up in his business. And so what went wrong? His website went down. We stopped talking for probably maybe 6 months, maybe a year. And the saddest thing is, let's see, okay, that was like what, 2015. Um, I knew them since 1995, and I was super close with them. Um, so you say from 95 to that was a 20-year relationship, okay? 20 years, and then that happened, and then we didn't talk for like about a year. And even when we started talking, it was not like everything was good. We said it was good, but it was not the best. So just to be clear, so even but now we're good. Unfortunately, the business went under, um, but that was hopefully to answer your question. The next was just to be clear, the client spent money, traffic exploded, but you didn't confirm the domain was secured or renewed. Wouldn't that be marketing 101? That's a great question. Marketing 101 is how I define marketing 101 is how do you want to use your digital assets to get customers, clients, or patients, whatever your avatar is. That's actually website development 101. Um, Not everyone sees their digital platforms as an asset, but that is a great question. You would think that would be marketing 101 for some people, but there's no class you take. Just like when you become a parent, you don't take any classes on how to be a parent. When you start a business, you don't take any classes. You just start. And so their website initially was started with yellow pages. So um, to get all that information like hosting and domain, a lot of people don't know that they're completely different, and they use some all-in-one services, and it's hard to unbundle that. But uh, now make sure if I'm going into a prospective client, if we're talking about website development, that's a different conversation. But I say, hey, look, I have my marketing hat on. How do you plan to use this website for you to gain clients? Because it's an asset, but just because you build it, that doesn't mean people are going to come. So, how will you use this digital asset now that you own? Because anything that you post on social media, it's UGC, user generated content. You no longer own those rights. You surrender those rights. That's not yours. On your own website, it's yours. So I say, like, this is your asset now. How do you use that for your promotion? Your It could be promotion. It could be used as a reference if you're, say, building a school for folks that are building LMSs, learning management systems, and they say, I want to build an academy or a community. How do you do that in a secured way? This is just a lead magnet, and then I'm going to drive people to another site. But this is, sometimes they say, this is how I also want to be known as a thought leader. So they build a couple of lead magnets, and so some folks will use, oh, what's his name? The web hacker. Oh, where you have a page. What's his, Russell Brunson? His what is his website? Russell Brunson. What is? It's funny. It goes to he's more than just a YouTuber. He created ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels. That's what I was looking for. He created ClickFunnels, and so when you create a platform such as that is to get people to hit your page with a video. You get testimonials, you get CTAs, call to actions, and from there, you convert. So they use that for a high conversion rate. You say fair, but if you're leading the campaign and traffic is the goal, shouldn't you make sure the site is live? Dev or not, the results still collapse in your watch, right? Absolutely. Oh, I failed. I failed. Absolutely. You're correct. Like I said, I was new starting. I think that was my second website I built. Like I said, that was like 10 years ago. Yeah, I failed. Yeah. No, I 100% failed. I felt horrible. I felt I felt horrible. Like, and I'll just be a little bit more vulnerable with you to keep it real. He was an older guy, and I was best friends with him, with his son, and I was, I looked up to him like a father figure, and so that crushed me, man. That really crushed me. So um, yeah, you said when you're managing campaigns for small business who don't have a dev team, are you saying your firm won't flag or follow up on core things like domain expiry? Isn't that risky? No, no, no. You asked the question, um, w- what did I do wrong? What went wrong with that client? That was something I learned. I was grateful I learned that very early on, and so now I do focus on that. I go through a full assessment of when I bring in on a client. Like, I don't have um, I don't have this immediate need to churn this prospect into a client. I want to do a needs assessment to determine first and foremost, are we a good fit for each other? I am a boutique, like I have 6 to 7 different subcontractors I work with. And so when I'm working with this potential new client, I want to be able to say, I can fulfill all their needs, checking their boxes in the time that they need this, what say, website to go live. Or we were talking about a website. Let's just say is that they need an ad campaign and it's a direct to consumer, so they're on a tight time schedule. So I talked to my ad people to say, how fast can we do this, and if in in case they also need social and they need paid social, I talk to my social media folks, and sometimes they just say no, they don't have time, they don't have the bandwidth because they have other campaigns they're working on. So no, we I do flag for that. I do ask questions. I think that's possibly um, why ooh why I don't ever make things transactional like I used to. Like, I used to have a form, I had a DocuSign all signed up, and then, like, as soon as they say let's go, let's move forward, I now come back and follow up to say, okay, how do you feel about this? Is this something you're good? Because on the flip side to that too is most of these small businesses, they have families. Um, they got families that they got to talk to. They have, like, with that, you got couples, they want to talk it over with them. They need time to process. So I don't ever want them to have buyer's remorse. He says, got it. Growth is good, but real talk, how many clients have you had to walk away from because they didn't align and you didn't do? Looks like you know about this. I know I've had to walk away from, let's say, who I remember one that, man, I thought it was a match made in heaven, but that, this is where I didn't do what I just said. I got the check on the same day that I did their let me get to know you, let me meet you. Man, that was a nasty, nasty breakup. That's one. Let's see, another one was two, and then another one was three. Um, three. Yeah, three. Yeah, I had to do three, but there's also two that I said no to from the very beginning. And man, I remember I was man, I'm a firm, and but I tell people up front, like, I don't do that work. If you want that work, I send them to these people. Again, I work with subcontractors, so I say, look. as in subcontractors, as in other business owners. So I say, I get you may want to work with me, but I don't do that. This is a business that I know you can work with. Let me give you an introduction to them, and I'll also I'll let them know that you have an opportunity for them. So that is where alignment. Oh my gosh, alignment is so key because it doesn't matter if, I mean, yeah, it matters if you have a contract in place, but just the headache, and I want to go to bed at night, and getting phone calls from clients, um to say, hey, look, this is not good, this is bad, it sucks. That's like the work for me. For me, that's like the worst feeling in the world. But I know business owners, they don't care about that. But for me, like, my clients are like, they're like my family. I want to see them succeed. I've had clients fall in my arms and cry to me and say thank you. I've had folks move on from me because I'm a small boutique marketing firm. Um, yeah, I've had people walk away from me, and it sucks sometimes, but sometimes it's the right thing just because I'm not able to do that. Respect, but if people still expect services you don't offer, doesn't that mean your onboarding position needs to be tightening? What exactly do you say to make your scope crystal clear up front? So so in my market, and this is where it's funny. I am having this conversation with my dev now. We're adding some more content, clearing things up. My probably 90% of my clients came from word of mouth. Now we're getting outside of that a little bit, and so I also had a very high conversion rate. So I didn't use ads. I didn't put myself out there a lot to get new clientele. So when we talk about marketing and the things that we do, there not a lot of folks that do what I do. Now, when I say do what I do, let's talk. We could go into break that down. Is I focus on lead generation. I had in the pandemic back in 2020, late 2020, I had three, two. I had two bigger marketing firms come to me and say, Nathan, can we give you websites that are beginner ones? And this is when my mind was like, initially I was like, yeah, absolutely. But then started to have this conversation. I'm like, wait. What do you tell me more about this, right? Because initially I was excited. They're like, yeah, we would love to give you these websites that are at this threshold, and we are moving away from that. Now, the pandemic was 2020. I moved into my first office in 2019, and my business exponentially grew. I got, at the time, it was my largest client, but then I had to change a whole bunch of things. But then in the beginning of 2020, I thought my business was going to go under because I was like, okay, everything is closed down. I get my clients through word of mouth, through networking, me going to events, and we weren't having any of that. And so at the towards the end of 2020, this I was able to get re-engaged with that client, but midway through 2020, those two agencies came to me and said, would you be able to handle this? And I was like, no. There was another firm, because they were doing government contracts, and they were like, can we give these clients to you? Now, I've never received not one client from them. But what was happening is I started to learn that they said we want to build these types of websites, and they were also moving offices to California and to Las Vegas. Neil Patel's in Las Vegas, in case if you know Neil Patel. But I'm like, well, why? And they were saying one firm told me, and he's no longer with the firm. He was on his way out. He was a little disgruntled. He was like, there's no money in websites. And I was like, is it kind of like flat screen TVs? It was like, yeah, at one point in time, there was money in websites. Now there is no money in websites. The money is now is creating campaigns for ads and SEO, because with SEO back then, it was everything. And so um, the more ad spend you can get from a client, which is a percentage, the more money, and it's consistent money. When a website build is a one-time thing, but monthly SEO and SEM, search engine marketing, that is a monthly expense. And so when companies in the very beginning of the pandemic, they dropped their ad spend, but then they started to pick it back up. And for the companies that were struggling with their ad spend, they had to improve SEO, which means the firms had to build extra pages, go through blogs, make them longer, and they needed their resources to go to their bigger clients. And they said, "Look, we can't do the smaller clients anymore." So um, to not be clear and upfront. I am very clear upfront, and when I start talking to people, but um, when we talk about, oh, you can help me with marketing. Well, marketing is like medicine. There's so many different things in marketing that you can help people with, but sometimes people just don't know what they want. They just know that they need this help, but they don't know what type of help that is, because what I was saying earlier, we don't have these conversations with people. And so I'm happy to talk with people that, when you talk to, you see my man Chris that comes on the podcast, uh, he's one of those financial guys that he'll tell you, but he won't charge you for it. And so that's maybe one of the biggest things that I've learned is I'm more than happy to help someone get started because maybe that's all they need, and I won't charge for it. Uh, but most of the time they come back to say, okay, I did the most I can. Now I need someone to do this for me on a regular basis. I'm like, okay, cool. How can we get started in a way that makes the most sense? Because basically they learn my bread and butter, my expertise is this. Marketing is not my expertise. So that's where I step in at. And it's either, okay, I can help you to here, or let me get you someone that can help you from here, or just start with these people. And most of the time, it's outside their budget. So I answered your question. Does that mean your onboarding position needs to be tightening? It does need to be tightened, which I think I addressed that now, because I'm going more. So I'm not using word of mouth as much. I mean, sure, I take word of mouth clients any time of day, but I also want to serve other folks that in the world that have similar problems to me, but and they can't find them. And then what exactly do you say to make your what exactly do you say to make your scope crystal clear up front? Um, that's a great question, and maybe I wasn't clear on that. Um, I'm now putting it on the website. Before I had my website just to be more of like, not here's everything in the kitchen sink, but now I'm being very clear of, and if you're this type of business, if you need this, if your business is stuck, my goal is to help you get unstuck. And that's either through business development, working with your operations, or standing operating procedures, because it doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world. If you don't have a good business, psh, your marketing doesn't work. And sometimes people do have like, and I get this a lot with engineers. They have great standard operating procedures. They have great SOPs. They have things down to a T, but they are, and they're just very insular. They are very introspective. They are focused on making sure everything gets executed to a T, except for with people. They so used to working with widgets and cogs and items, and but they're not good with people. And so that's when I come in, and I can say, hey, uh, you need a marketing plan because your message is so detailed. You're losing people. Eyes get glazed over. So yeah. So I'm clearing that up now. You said tough spot, but with both small and big clients, how do you help starters without wasting time on unclear goals and unpaid work? Woo, bruh or sis, bruh. I'm gonna say, guess bruh. Woo, that was, man, that question I could spend a whole hour answering that question, but to be concise, is my passion. eh, I love helping small businesses. And when I say small businesses, I love helping founders. I like all day long. I love helping people figure out how to turn their idea into a money making machine and helping them overcome the obstacles on their mindset. Now, big clients obviously pay the bills. A small client, they don't have the cash flow. They don't have the cash, because if they did have the cash, they would just go out and go do it. And so, how do I help starters without wasting time on unclear goals? So one of the biggest things I do is um, I would have this form. Hold on, let me get it. Let me get it. This is a form that I would carry with me in my computer. And it's kind of funny that you asked that because it always comes back to my passion. And I used to have it on the website, uh, and you can go to it. It's called the Business Canvas. If you don't already have access to the Business Canvas, you should. But here's the business model canvas. It was done by Strategizer. I think you can see this. Um, this is the best resource that I have ever used, and that's including in my classrooms. When I was even doing my entrepreneur program at the college, when I went to University of Washington and Portland State University, they were using the Strategizer business model canvas. I was going to use that as well, but as you can tell, like with my there's two things that I brought with me when I go to clients. I had the business model canvas, and then I have what's your avatar, and obviously they're laminated because, I'll have my own, and then they have one for them too. So we will mark this up, and so we were like, we'll talk through these 9 items. When you go through the business canvas, when you go through the business canvas, you go through all these different things, starting with the value proposition, who are your customer segments, down to what is going to be um, the the cost structure of your business. And so, when it comes to helping people start, sometimes it's not even about like um, it's not even about them not able to do it. It's them sometimes believing they can do it. And then once we got to, okay, we I believe I can do it. Now how do I get them to the right resources? Then and it's not me. I'm not going to do it. They have to do it. And so um this is only like maybe a 30-minute conversation. I believe, and the creator blessed me with this, so I can help folks with this. But then when it comes to questions of like, hey, I need help with this and this, and it's like, well, you can't do this by yourself. Let's be honest. You're gonna need help. This is how you're gonna focus on how you're gonna build your stuff. And now you either need to make the decision that you're gonna pay for someone to do it, because I learned this very early on from a VC, um, was a venture capitalist. They said like, you either earn attention or you pay for attention. There's no other way around it. You either earn attention or you pay for it. So in this, you got to get eyeballs on your idea, eyeballs on your good, your services, and you got to sell. And then that's how they determine whether or not it would be a winner. So when you like watch Shark Tank, that's when they ask like, how many sales do you have? And then if you back that up with your QuickBooks report or just your POS system, boom, now you got proof. And that's the number one thing to do is I want to know when you have the question, how do you help starters without wasting time on unclear goals or unpaid work? I want to see what their goals are. And I think I'm skilled enough, not like a VC or a investor or a shark, because that's not what I do on a daily basis. I can help people kind of like get unstuck for the most part, but as for a small a person that sometimes they don't believe in themselves, here's where I can step in. But at some point, I have said to all my clients, like, okay, when are we gonna be done talking about this? When are you gonna do it? Does that answer your question? These are some really good questions, and I'm glad you're asking them. As I know, as other folks are watching this, I have three viewers. Hey, feel free if you have questions too. I'm more than happy to answer them. I think this is a part with small businesses why we we are more successful if we can be vulnerable and ask questions. You said, okay, you said, I love the mindset of turning small business into money makers is key. Absolutely. But how do you actually help those who can't pay yet? Do you offer specific packages, free coaching, or just referrals? That's another great question. So I'm going to say um, someone can always pay. What can they pay is something that we can work on. But there's always something you can pay. And I used to allow, especially my students, I would have my office hour time, but that one office hour turned into, which was 1 day a week. I was required to do one office hour 1 day a week. It would turn into a couple of hours. Then it would turn into a couple of days, and then it also came into the weeks. Um, and so I would say you want to have expectations from the very beginning of if there's an internship or a mentorship, what do you want to gain from it? So that would be clear. Um, for those that need help. But if you want to pay for it, that means you say this is going to be a relationship that we can have until I reach this again. There's going to be expectations, but there's an exchange versus when you're asking for free help or resources. You just agreeing and the other person's agreeing like you're just going to take, but that's going to be based upon when it's available. Um, if there are specifics asked, I'm always there. That's why I'm doing this for free and I love doing it. Um, I think sometimes we just are not able to succeed because the information is not out there. And you said on that earn or pay attention, what's your go-to tactic for startups with zero budget with huge need? Um, I would I believe very good question by the way. Thank you for asking that. Very good question. I'm going to come back to mindset. One of the biggest things that I have found, this is not just with me, I can use examples for me though, is you have everything that you need. And I'm going to say thing that's including person in the place. And you may not have the raw goods, but you may have access to someone that can get you raw goods. When they say the Kevin Bacon 3 degrees or 5 degrees of separation. So I would start with when it comes to go-to tactic for startups with zero budget. I would I don't know. I'm trying to like say like an idea. If you like say you love to cook, go and see if you can cook something up for someone and ask them, would you pay for this? There's something I learned that when I was running my nonprofits, and it still works to this day. If you're asking for money, ask for advice. And if you're asking for advice, ask for money. It's weird in the psychology of when people, when you ask them for money, for someone that is, and I'm not saying like you're asking for money for a bill, like you need some money for gas. That's not what I'm saying. When you say, "Hey, I have this idea. Would love to know your thoughts on it," more than likely people are going to give you advice. But for someone who's qualified that knows what they're asking for, they're going to be specific and they're going to ask you questions. But if you come back and you have a relationship with this person, and if you say, look, I need 100 grand. They're probably going to say 100 grand. That's an arbitrary number. Why is it 100? And then they're going to say, well, what are you going to do with that 100? And let's just say it's a loan. When do I get that money back? And how am I going to be involved? Right? Say it's $100. It could look, the conversation could look totally different. The go to tactic, to be very specific in your question to answer you, I would begin asking people one by one. And maybe this is just a video that you can send to people. I would immediately go through my contacts and start talking to people to say, I have this idea. Would you be able to help me? Ask. If you're not asking, people don't know that they can support you. The number one problem that I've seen with all of my students, all of my even even experienced professionals that are starting businesses, they are so scared to tell people what they're doing because we love to pigeonhole people and just say, well, this is what they do. But when they start something new, it's like, well, uh, 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 are they that person? So you have to come out of what people thought you were, and now you have to introduce them to who you are. So I would, man, this is, I would say too, this is exciting. Like, it's scary, and you're welcome. Absolutely. This is this is like, I'm getting goosebumps right now. This is really exciting when you're in this position, because it's like you're looking down on this like cliff that you're gonna walk over a bridge, but you're seeing how high you are. You're like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And I'm telling you, you can do it. Now, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be easy. You might not slip. Like, oh, you definitely gonna fall. You definitely gonna fall. However, the most important thing that you're gonna find out is who has your back. Oh my God, you're gonna see who has your back. And I think the biggest thing is when when you start finding out who has your back and who doesn't, I think it's more about who doesn't have your back. It makes you question. I'll be honest with me. When I started to determine, like, wait, my family doesn't. You talking about my family members doesn't care? Like, they don't have my back. That made me start to question my whole life. Like, literally, no joke. It started to have me question my whole life in its existence of who are these people then? I had to now, as I say in my detox and declutter, I had to now say, like, why are these people in my life then? Like, did they always feel this way about me? And I was just asking them to follow my nonprofit. Like, how hard is it to hit the like button on Facebook, for God's sake, to say you follow me? But this is where I also learned that people would love, and this is back in my nonprofit days, would love to go and buy me coffee and spend the $5 on Starbucks rather than spend or donate the $5 to the nonprofit. I and for the even to this day, I haven't gone back to those people and asked them, but also I don't want to, because I realized that those people weren't really uh, for me. So I'm gonna come back to, when you have to either buy attention or earn attention. It's tough. But how do you get through it? People will encourage you. You find things to encourage you, but then you also, there's some baggage. I had one client that would say, Nathan, you're you're really my business therapist. And I will go into, I'm like, well, like, what are you talking about? And he was just telling me about how his sister-in-law has this lifestyle of wanting to do a business, and they do all these things, but they don't have structure. And he was saying how so far, ever since, and oh my gosh, this person was a very hard conversion. Yet they have also been one of my longest standing clients that have paid me the most as well. And they continue to find money to pay me because they were like, I don't know how I would do this without you. Like, you're my world. And sometimes I was like, come on, really, come on, you're just saying that. And they would say, no, you are. And they would say with their sister-in-law, like, because the sister-in-law would come over, and the sister-in-law like would homeschool kids. They didn't have electricity. The from not having electricity, not also having food at times. They were then responsible for providing that food and that electricity. And so I did think that was interesting of how when he would say that, he was like, you're providing me structure, you're providing me encouragement, and you provide wisdom. uh, yeah, I thought, and I do still need, and they needed, they hired me for lead acquisition, but we didn't get to lead acquisition until like through the last maybe 3 months of, let's say, 3 years. Because their business model had to be reframed, and it started with them buying the business in the pandemic. And when they bought the business in the pandemic, it was very much the way the founder was running it. And obviously, from the pandemic and the founder, the founder had a very bubbly, outgoing personality. Turned out, the more I was pushing them, and they found out that the this person, the client, found out that the founder was doing this business to stay busy because they were already taken care of. I was like, isn't this interesting that you're having problems finding clients, but the way the founder found clients was just going around talking to people because they were bored. They were working on finding things to do. And yet here you are trying to be uh, efficient with your time because you're married. And just like the founder, they were married, but they didn't have any kids. You have, I think they have 4 kids, 3 kids. Uh, and the spouse, they work like 12 hours, 10-hour days. You trying to have that balance, yet this founder, they didn't have a balance. So you're now having to completely flip the script, tear apart. And then I found out, get this, what I found out from the the client was they were still meeting on a regular basis. I'm like, you have to stop that. They're not, I'm not saying like stop having a relationship with this person, but you need to stop taking advice from this person. And then the client said, you know what, I finally had a heart to heart with this, with the founder. And the founder came back and said, you know what, you don't do it the way I did it. And that's when they disclosed where like this was just like a hobby for them. and and this was going to be my client's livelihood. And so the founder told my client, yeah, you need to change things up, don't do it the way I did it. And that, like, that released my client to allow them to now run the business, and they gave them permission to do the business as they are now. So that's where I love helping with the mindset piece of it and getting unstuck. Sometimes it's not in the X's or O's, it's more in just the mindset and being around the right people and letting go of certain people. And so this is good because I'm about to jump off here in about 10 minutes. You said, I also wanted to ask, if 90% of your clients come from word of mouth, how do you guarantee fresh, innovative ideas instead of recycling the same old tactics? Uh, I don't, well, I'll say that's a good question too, because the tactics and strategy we deploy are real time. That is a changing market. So anytime here, let me first start with me. I Everything that I recommend and do and execute for my clients, I either do it, I do it myself concurrently, or I've done it like in the last 6 months. So I'm not going to run an ad campaign if I haven't ran an ad campaign in the last 6 months. Like for example, with Google's ad with their uh, AI embedment, it's been crazy. And I stopped my ads because I wasn't getting the results. And then one of my colleague, my sub, they were like, "No, it's crushing us." So I was like, "Up, pause, not doing it." As for social or doing websites, especially with AI now coming into it, you are as I'm being paid to get results from my clients, I immediately get, I'm gonna say, feedback on what's not working. And one of the biggest things that with the post-pandemic world and the return to the office culture and the downtown deterioration in major metropolitans, what clients are saying is these things that we're deploying that we worked before the pandemic and even in the height of the pandemic, it's not working. So we immediately start going to like hyper speed mode of finding out why is it not working, asking questions, and sometimes it is asking either people on the ground, or we're asking for folks that say it's an event. Why did you not go to the event? Or you talk to people at the events and you ask them like, why did you show up to this event versus say the other events? And events are by far the ones that have taken the hardest hits. And so you talking about recycling same old tactics. One of the old tactics that used to be, you can um, kind of like buffer events, kind of like side by side, and say this event is from 3 to 5. You say, okay, make your event from 6 to 8. Well, what people are saying is they can only do one event. Like the pandemic has just worn them out. Plus, they got family obligations, and they only have time to do one. And Friday is no longer a popular day for events, and so people are like, "Hey, yeah, I'm gonna go to it, but I'm also not staying for the full event either." So when you talk to people on the ground, which I gotta go and pay, not just with money, but with my time to say, okay, like tell me more about this, and this is just having relationships with people. So um yes, I have to continue to stay sharp. It's a good question. It's a good question. What other questions you got for me? I don't, you weren't all here in the very beginning, but um I don't know what time it is for you. I put in the chat, but I would love to know, is this a good time for me to do these lives? I love answering questions. And I was also thinking about bringing other people involved in here to, like, just pop in, ask them, jump in here, like Ray. Ray, for example, we even though she does marketing, we do marketing in a very different way. And I always like to bring in Ray when it comes to where someone is giving me some pushback, but it also comes to people's mindset on what they believe marketing is. And so when I say I'm a brand strategist when it comes to lead generation, she's a brand strategy and she's around copy and strategy and building the infrastructure, especially around social media. And all these things is funny is that people start realizing like, wait, when do you have this creative time? When can you like do these things that people think like, oh, this is marketing? I'm like, marketing is more about analytics. We make decisions based on data. If I'm not going to do a campaign or do a job where I can't measure, because I need to check to see whether or not if that's key. And one of the ways I even started to get my kids involved is we created a new YouTube channel. It's called In Depth Shorts, and we kind of got one video that went viral. Kind of it's kind of funny, but my kids, I even got fat shamed, but uh, my kids started to see like, oh, there's a back end, and we started talking about strategy, and I was like, no, you're talking about a tactic. Like that's not going to work long term, and you're making also about yourself. So I would love to know if this is a good time for you all. if this is, or I keep going. I love helping you all because I do believe entrepreneurship is the way out for a lot of us. I do believe that we are no longer in this W-2 culture of where you can just go get a job, and I think that um, you say, oh, let me finish this thought because I do believe we are now. I have people to push back, but you can. But people say, I say we are in a gig economy. If you can't make money on a side hustle, you're not gonna be able to pay all your bills. And I'm not wishing that upon nobody. I'm just saying like you're gonna need to be able to hustle in a different way because we we're in a different time. So my man says, absolutely, now is the perfect time for you to go live. Okay, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. And you say your experience and honesty will make these sessions real and valuable. People need that right now. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's appreciate you. That's real. I appreciate that. Um, because one of the biggest things that I found out as I wrapped this up was I started to get into rooms and sit at tables that I always dreamed of. And there's this one event that, as a nonprofit, because I started a nonprofit like 20 years ago, and Portland, Oregon is per capita one of the largest, like number one. It used to be number one nonprofit capital of the world. One of the best things to do is like you have to get in the room where people can write checks of like 5, 6, 7 figures without coughing, but they don't write the check. There's a way they do it in a way that makes the most tax or benefit sense for them. And I went to this event, and when I at this event, what I realized it had nothing. It was nothing that I thought, and it was nothing like any of the other events I went to. They not one point this fundraiser that I go to is a black tie event. It was a beautiful scenario. They never once asked for money. They never once asked for people to engage in the program. All they did was present it in a way that you want to be involved. I was like, man, that's really interesting. And I what I when I sat down with them, when I started to talk to them, what I realized is, when we need something like, shoot, I used to have food stamps. I used to be broke. I remember what that was. I would go to 7-Eleven instead of, I didn't go to 7-Eleven or a Minimart to a grocery store, but, I would eat out versus like cooking for myself. But when I started to realize is these people, they don't shop at the same places I shop at. When we go out to eat for a dinner meeting, they eat a salad. They don't eat a cheeseburger. I love my cheeseburgers. So, um, I had to learn that people move differently as you move up the economic ladder. That's not saying you don't stay who you are, but when I started to sit at these tables, when I got into these rooms, when people were telling me to do all these things, especially in this area, go talk to that person, go talk to that person, go talk to that person. I realized when I got to start talking to these people, they were like, oh, you already know this. Oh, I don't know why. And then they started to say, well, I don't know why they sent you to me. And so in my end of my nonprofit, when I had my office for my nonprofit, I started to put my wall of failures. My what is it? It was my rejection wall. I put up all the grants that I got denied from, even ones that I were later funded from. I put them all up there. So when people say, "Hey, have you," because they would want to sit down and talk with me, or they were sent to me, and sometimes the meeting would go like that because they were like, "Well, I was going to tell you to go here, but it looks like you already went here. So, okay, tell me how I can support you." And then immediately, the conversation shifted to where they thought that they were going to help me, but I immediately started helping them. And then they were like, "Oh, I do want to help you, but now I don't know how to help you because the way people talk about you, this is what I was saying, how you got to tell people what you're doing because, man, some people don't know that sometimes, man, they don't necessarily say the best things about you. So you got to have your own bullhorn, which I do. Hold on, here I'll show you. Sometimes you gotta have your own bullhorn. It's on the siren right here. uh, I put it on the speak and said, "Hey, I used to use this when I go networking, and I would tell people about what I do and get their attention because again, you got to earn attention, right? And so, um, man, and it's sad because sometimes not everybody wants you to win. I just keep it real on that level. So you gotta find people that want you to win and do that. So as I wrap up, you said, by the way, I remember you were in Kenya before. Any plans on when you'll be coming back? I'm not there at the moment. Just curious. Anyway, great chat today. Let's pick up again soon. Just so you know, yeah, I'm not in Kenya right now. I'm looking forward to going back to Kenya, but I'm back in Vancouver, Washington. That's where my office is at. And so I'll be looking to go back here soon. Thanks for joining. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the engagement. Yeah, this has been great. I appreciate you all. Man, if there's anything I can do, I think next time I'll just put ask me anything for the next topic. We'll be here same time, same place. And I wish y'all nothing but the best. So dream big and Godspeed. Oh wait, let me get my siren. And I guess my only tip for you all is tell people what you do, blast it out to the world. Don't be shy.